Hello, everyone. So thank you for joining us today. We'll start the event now. So this is job hunting seminar, adjusting to job hunting and the COVID Day 2. Before we start, there's housekeeping matter. First, please turn off your microphone and turn on the video if possible. Second, please change your display name to application name. Third, any recording or screenshot is not allowed. Thank you for your understanding. Now we start. So the Consortium of Universities in Hyogo is a collaborative organization consisting of 39 universities in Hyogo Prefecture. Currently, we are conducting an international exchange basis project on behalf of JASO. In addition, a platform for industry, government, academia collaboration, we are working to enhance education and collaborate with local government and industry with internationality at the core. And this program is co-hosted by Kansai Economic Federation and Mixed Scholar Association. Thank you. So this event includes day 1 is in third year. We've held an event for international students enrolled in English track. This time, the theme focused on adjusting to job hunting and the COVID. We have invited an expert in the job hunting for international students to give speeches concerning and related to job hunting, such as company understanding and potential-based employment and job hunting methods that take advantage of being international student. We also welcome a talent acquisition specialist from HORIBA, where is global leading company, to provide information on the employment process, what company expect in international students, and so on. So this is today's timetable. After this opening, we'll have speeches from 2 experts from 2040 to 2110. We'll have Q&A breakout session. So we'll divide you into 2 groups and each speaker will stay in your room for 15 minutes. After the breakout session, we'll share some points and close this event at 20:30. So this is the speaker's brief introduction. Austin Zen-san, the president of Mixed Scholar Association, he's day's expert as well as facilitator. Now Kishigami-san, recruitment team, Global Human Resource Department at HORIBA Ltd. She's responsible for hiring college graduates, including international students for HORIBA Japan. She's day's expert. So now we are moving on to expert session. Austin-san, お願いします, please.
Good evening, everyone, and glad for you to be with us today. I am going to share my screen. This is not the wrong screen, I think. Which one is it? Give me a second. Hope everyone is warm. We had, I think most of Japan had bad weather last night, but I hope you're not too down by it. So yeah, this should be the correct screen. Yep, how's it? Can you see my screen right now? Okay. So thanks so much to everyone for joining us today. So this is Austin here, and I will be talking about finding employers in Japan. But before I go on into the main thing about the topic that I'm going to be talking about, just a brief introduction to myself. Yes, I am the Mixed Scholars Association president, came to Japan in 2012, graduated 2017, found a job myself in Japan, and I've been working in Japan for nearly 5 years already. So I hope that gives me enough status to talk about these kind of things about careers and stuff like that. Well, I also do research about like foreign student issues and careers. So hopefully that gives me some credibility, I hope. But anyway, aside from what I do in terms of lecturing, I do have a blog as well, and I write a lot about finding careers for foreign students and foreigners in Japan. So please take a look at the blog if you want to read more. And I hope that the more that you read, the better your chances will be for your job hunting. But that's just about me. I shouldn't talk too much about myself. I don't have that much time, but let's look at the meat of today. Why are you here today at 8 p.m. Listening to us talking about this issue? You're probably interested in this particular topic about how to find a good job in Japan. I'm sorry to say this, but I'm actually not going to talk directly about this thing here. I am going to be talking about your career strategy, because if you have a good career strategy, you will have a good job in Japan. So let's look at the process, not so much the results. Though I will be talking about some of the basic steps that you may want to look at when you're looking for a job in Japan anyway. This is the rough agenda for today. I'm going to be talking about your careers as a formula. Then we can look at calculating your chances, because that is pretty much how you can find companies in Japan. And then we'll look at how you can tune the process. So let's look at what careers are fundamentally as a formula. So your career, many of you here are thinking about finding good jobs in Japan. Now, the definition of a good job for every one of you probably is a bit different. I mean, like some of you want to have good pay, some of you would have good work-life balance. I mean, for me, I would like to have like an office pet, that would be very cute and make my life a bit like brighter. Maybe free lunch and stuff like that. But all these things are basically a collection of each of your individual wants. I mentioned that this is a formula here. So when I say a formula, there needs to be an interaction between at least two things, right? So what I want you to think about is the other side of the equation. What can you get? Who wants you? Your career is basically and I think the mathematicians here, you understand this is the intersection. It is the intersection between what you want and what you get. And today I want to talk about primarily what you can get, because that's what many people have an issue with, to be very honest. Identifying your chances, who wants you in Japan, and where to apply to. Okay? So let's look at this, what you can get. What does this what you can get actually involve? What you can get is basically a collection of three different things that each of you needs to define for yourself. Your value, who demands it, and who else can provide it. The combination of these three factors is probably what's going to allow you to pick and identify where you have a good chance of applying to and succeeding. And so let's look at each of these individual elements individually. So we move on to calculating chances. I'm going to be giving a bit of time for each of you to think about your own individual circumstances here, but let's start from the value. Your value is pretty much defined by a few of your things, do you have hard skills, expertise, and soft skills? I just want to note that a few things. Number one, for hard skills, technical skills, programming, statistics, and language, and these kind of things, all of this counts. Be aware of thinking too narrowly about it. If you're a chemistry major that does data analysis using some sort of data crunching program in your research, you can do data analysis. Same thing for economics majors doing the same thing, for example. You don't have to be an IT person to claim that you can provide data analysis. So these kind of things. Translation is the same thing, that's also kind of a technical skill. So yeah, think about these things. What have you done so far that is a hard skill that you can put on your resume that could be of value to somebody else? Expertise. Do you have any familiar fields? If you're an economics major, maybe that would be a region that you're studying. This is particularly for arts and humanities people, a region, field, topic that you are studying. Who wants that? Is there a think tank that may want that, for example? Network definitely as well. One thing also, note your nationality. Your nationality is a form of expertise. Many Japanese companies will want to hire people who come from a certain region or speak a certain language to act as bridges. That is a form of value that you can provide. As for soft skills, these are actually very important, but yeah, I'm going to talk about them a bit further down. So these are values. Think about them, note them down, and then maybe you want to put some notes about this. The next thing I want to talk about is the demand. So you have your value. Who wants it? It's the question I think all of you need to ask. Of course, the thing is that if you are a IT engineer, then the most obvious thing is going to be IT companies and so on and so forth. But I have a little trap that I want to talk about later, so I'm not going to talk too much about that right now. One thing again, as I mentioned, nationality. One tip that I can say, if you belong to a certain nationality, one way that you can search for companies, for example, is to look at companies with an office in your home country or your home region. That is one way for you to actually think about companies that may hire you based on that itch that you have. Soft skills are very important because the thing is that Japan has a certain particularly, unique way of recruiting, especially fresh graduates. And so let's look a bit about what I mean by this. You see this thing here. Some of you who have seen my slides before, may see this, but this is basically what I say defines Japanese fresh graduate job hunting. Basically, how Japanese job hunting works for fresh graduates is that you're not expected to have that many hard skills, generally speaking. What they want to see is that you are a good piece of paper that can learn quickly. And therefore, the companies want to be the pen that writes on the paper. That is generally what we speak. Hard skills still are important though, especially if you're looking for jobs in a particular mid-career kind of recruitment, which is also possible. But yeah, just be aware that this is the average for fresh graduate students. And to add on to that, because companies want you to be sheets of paper that they can train you to be moldable and for you to be flexible, this is what the soft skills that I mentioned about just now mean. They're looking at whether you can fit well in the training or within the company. Therefore, soft skills, right, you're looking at, for example, proof that you understand Japanese society and understand Japanese business culture. That's what soft skills also mean. It also involves you trying to display proof that you will not quit easily. That is in all truth. And that's all tied to this idea of long-term employment. I will put a link later on inside the chat for a more detailed article that I write about this, but this is very important for anybody who is thinking about doing fresh graduate recruitment in Japan, the shukatsu system. But yeah, that was the demand. But so just remember, there's one other thing that you need to think about. Remember that there's your value, who wants it, but the last factor of that, after everything, is your competition. It's not just enough to have something. Remember that you have to beat the competition. The more popular the places you want to apply to, the more competition that you have to beat. So that's where you have to look at your portfolio and look at your resume and think about, is what I'm writing rare? Am I really rare? Am I special, or am I special enough? And that's a very difficult question to ask, but the thing is, it's a question that if you can give a concrete answer, your chances of getting a good job are actually much higher. So basic things, portfolio, language, yes, but the thing is that being a strong bilingual itself is not enough nowadays. I'm going to say that it's not enough nowadays, especially if you want to join a very popular company. But yeah, so these are kind of things that I wanted to touch on. Ask me more about them in greater detail inside the breakout rooms, so that I can talk to them about a bit more, because the things I don't have the time to go through like this that much. But anyway, as I mentioned before, so those three factors, your value, who wants it, and how many other people can actually provide it, are basically what will define the intersection between what you want and what you can get. But of course, the thing is that, many of you may be thinking, but how do I really know if somebody really wants my thing, the thing that I can offer? And here's where I need to say, please do your research. If you have no clue, ask people. And what do I mean by research? Look at company websites, do internships. Doing internships is very important, especially for anybody here who has still a lot of time before your graduation. Internships are a very good look into how the work society works, and a good way for you to build your understanding. Talk to your senpais, especially foreigners who have been working in Japan for a period of time. We know a lot, me included. Okay, so yes, please talk to us, and we can give you advice about this. Please don't be annoying. I mean, like, some people really like to message me every day or something like that. It doesn't really help you in the end. But yeah, also, I mean, one thing I need to say: assume that what you know right now or what you think right now about job hunting is wrong. This is important. Here are some reasons why you may have some misunderstandings when it comes to job hunting. Why? Because I see many common mistakes when you're looking at finding companies in Japan every year. Before COVID, during COVID, I don't know when after COVID will be, but probably after COVID as well. Number one, timing. The job hunting work system here in Japan works in a very tight time schedule where everything pretty much happens at the same time. This, from what I'm hearing, it can start as early as 3 semesters before your graduation date. It doesn't mean that if you're late, you're dead. But it does mean that, it's better for you to start early by looking at internships and by actually looking at companies which are hiring early. So number one, don't be late. And be aware that the wake-up call is 3 semesters before your graduation, generally speaking. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, just doing a little case study here. I think many of you know this company here that we're looking at. This is Procter Gamble. This is basically one of the big shampoo, soap, and your basic household goods producers in Japan. So many people actually, I think that, okay, so they're a foreign company. I think their headquarters is in the US. And so therefore, foreign companies are more likely to hire foreign students. No, that's not how the way things work. Because, for example, for Procter & Gamble or companies like Procter & Gamble, I don't know about Procter & Gamble specifically, but I know a few similar companies. So basically, their position in Japan is to bring in goods that they produced overseas into Japan and sell them within Japan. Their fresh graduates tend to work in sales and marketing. Because of that, the standard level of Japanese that they require for their fresh graduates is extremely high. If you're not native level, you're unlikely to succeed in the job hunting if you're trying to apply to them. Therefore, do not think that easily that because it is a gaishike, that they will hire foreign students. There are many foreign companies which hire foreign students, but not all of them. You have to analyze each individual one to understand the circumstances. It's not so easy as foreign company, therefore foreigners welcome, to be very honest. Second thing that I want to look at in terms of a case study. Many of you here will know the company on the left. I'm guessing that far fewer of you will actually know the company on the right. Why is it that you know the company on the left, but not the company on the right? It's because many of you will have Rakuten credit card. I do. Many of you will have used Rakuten's marketplace. I have. But many of you have never touched something by SAP, even though SAP is a foreign company. And I think that in terms of a job reputation, and it is actually at the same level as Rakuten or above. But why is it that people don't know about them? And why is it that more people will apply to Rakuten than SAP? It is simply because SAP is a company that does not sell to consumers like you and me. SAP is a company that sells to other businesses. Because of this, their reputation is not very strong in terms of recruitment, and therefore competition is often easier for such companies, business to business, B2B companies. So therefore, one thing that's often very, 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 very much overlooked by students when they're applying for companies is B2B companies. Don't forget them. Let's look at another a case study that I want to talk about. Let's look at L'Oreal. We have this idea of L'Oreal being very stylish and stuff like that. When we look at L'Oreal, we kind of get the idea that this is the kind of person that they want to hire. I'm guessing, right? Because they have the branding with them, right? It's very normal to think that way. No, the actual fact is that over the past few years, L'Oreal has been looking for finance people and engineers. So the thing is, don't forget that, for example, Google will need sales and marketing people as well. The industry is not the internal position. And therefore, this is where you need to think about how, like, are you getting tricked by the so-called branding of the company? Because every single company will have a HR department, a tech department sometimes, and a marketing department, for example. So the thing is that do not narrow your vision too much just because of the industry of a company. Here's another thing. Little thing here. These are statistics that I've got like over last year. What do you think this is? This is basically from here, number of employees, and the y-axis is applicants to hires ratio. For big companies, for every person they hire, the average is around 2.5 applicants. Now, when we look at smaller companies, for every applicant they hire, they actually have like they don't have enough applicants. Basically, this is what it means. What does this mean, basically? Stop just looking at big companies. Stop it. Like, seriously, like, big companies are good places to work in. But the thing is that, are you actually limiting your choices by only looking at big companies? When the thing is that when you look at small companies, for every job they have open, they only get 0.1 candidates, So that's one thing that you may want to look at. Another thing. This is, I don't really have much time, but yeah, these are some things that you may want to look at. There are some tools which are probably a bit overused by foreign students when they job hunt, and there's some tools which are probably underused. So I do not personally recommend that much of going to job fairs where the majority of students are Japanese students. I prefer that you actually go to foreign student job fairs. Why? Because the thing is that if you are competing with Japanese students, you'll be competing with their Japanese ability, for example. That could be a difficult fight, in all honesty. The same thing goes for Japanese job portal sites like Rikunabi and Mainabi. Quite hard for you, and you may get automatically filtered, especially if you do not have at least a JLPT N2. Gaijin Port and Dai job, it's good to look at. Actually, all the things on the left, these are okay to look at because they just could be like, of consideration, and you could get a job from them. It's not saying don't use them. It's just that saying that, there may be better choices which are more time efficient, which are the things on the right. LinkedIn, I have to say, more people are starting to use it. So the thing is that please take a look at it. I haven't heard of that many people who found jobs through LinkedIn, but the thing is it does happen. So yeah, just a look at it. The things on the right are basically foreign student-based services. And this is where it's actually very important for you to possibly look at. I'm looking at job fairs, which specifically say foreigners and foreign students. This is so that you do not get filtered by your nationality or your Japanese level. Okay, this is what's important here. Recruiters are the same thing. They can find the jobs for you, and they can prep you for your interviews and for your resume writing. So that's where they can be an important source of help for you. I just put wantedly because the thing is that if you have strong Japanese and you're looking for small and medium companies and maybe like startups, it could be very useful. One thing I also want to add, there is no harm in applying directly. You can apply directly to companies in Japan, especially if you are trying to apply as a mid-career talent. You can't really do the things on the left regarding Rikunabi and Mainabi as a fresh graduate. If you want to look for jobs as a mid-career, apply find a company, directly email them, and then search for your jobs from there. One last note before I finish though, job hunting is tough for everyone. And especially because of the current economic climate, it's not very, very nice to job hunt right now. So in this case, many of you and many of the people I've seen so far have actually had trouble job hunting, yeah? But in this case, there's only two things you can do. Number one, you search smarter based on the things I mentioned above. Or number two, you may have to compromise. Your first job does not define your whole career. And therefore, maybe just finding a place where you can get into and then switching out from there, that could be something that could be a choice. And something that I do recommend actually if you're having trouble. So that's all for my presentation right now. Thank you also for listening. And don't forget, I have my blog. I write on many other topics. And so hopefully you can take that and do your homework after this. Okay. So yeah, that's enough for my presentation. Next we have Kishigami-san from HORIBA to give her perspective as actually an internal recruiter for a company. Kishigami-san, please.
Thank you very much. Let me share my PowerPoint. Can everyone see my PowerPoint now? Okay, great. Right. Let me start. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm very happy to meet all of you today. Let me introduce myself briefly first. My name is Naoki Shigami, and I was born and raised in Japan. And after high school, I went to university in Hiroshima. Then I transferred to University of Wisconsin in my junior year, and I spent 2 years there. After the graduation, I worked as an international recruiter, one of the recruitment agency based in Chicago, Illinois. Then I returned to Japan. I joined HORIBA in September 2018, and since then, I'm responsible for hiring new college graduates, including international students like you, for HORIBA Japan. I'm very excited to speaking with you today. So I will give you some ideas of what you should know to get a job successfully in Japan. And we will have discussion time later of my presentation. So please ask me any questions or concerns during the time. All right, first, I would like to briefly explain about HORIBA, where I work at now. HORIBA is a global leading company of development of analytical and measurement system, and it is based in Kyoto, Japan. It is founded in 1945 and incorporated in 1953. The annual sales are approximately 187 billion yen, and we have approximately 8,000 employees worldwide. Chairman and Group CEO is Atsushi HORIBA in the photo on the right. HORIBA specializes in 5 different business segments and develops products with the top share in the world and in Japan. Most of HORIBA's products are for corporate customers, so you probably haven't seen them before, but HORIBA's products are very useful in various fields around the world. We contribute to the environment, health, and society in various fields. In addition, HORIBA is expanding globally with 49 group companies around the world, with an overseas sales ratio of overseas approximately 70%, and foreign employees account for approximately 60%. We maintain a well-balanced composition in Japan, Europe, America, and Asia in terms of business and human resources. HORIBA's corporate motto is Omoshiro Okashiku. It is translated in English as joy and fun. It means that we want you to actively work at because you spend most of your active time of your life at work. So we want you to have intentions, thoughts, and the spirit of challenge in what you're doing to increase the satisfaction of your life and lead fulfilling life. This corporate motto was made by founder of Mr. Masao HORIBA. Joy and the fun is very important slogan that all employees in HORIBA around the world we have in common. Okay, so I introduced myself and my company HORIBA briefly. So from here, I would like to explain outline and system of Japanese Shinsotsu Saiyo. Have you ever heard that? Like recruitment of new college graduates, which is a unique recruitment system. Then I will give you some ideas of what company expect from you, international students, and how to find a company that suits you. And finally, I'd like to explain about the recruitment of new graduates in HORIBA. Okay, let me explain the outline of new college graduate recruitment. New college graduate recruitment is a typical Japanese recruitment system for students who are graduating from university. And the most of Japanese companies emphasize the potential and motivation of each student. In many cases, companies do not assign new employees to the post at the recruitment selection process, but companies assign or decide your job responsibilities, like what department you work in and what you're doing at the company, like right before starting date or even after the training period for new employees, like 3 months or 4 months after you join. Have you ever heard of Sogo Shoku Saiyo or general management position recruitment. Sougoshoku does not have a specific job description. The reasons why Japanese companies generally introduce the recruitment system hiring by general management position for new graduates is that the company want to develop business persons who will lead the company in the future by providing them with various experiences and nurturing them at the company. Companies aim to develop leaders who know the technology or management of the company widely and deeply, and who have great vision from general perspective, rather than being a specialist who experts his or her strengths in the specific field. Under the premise, what the Japanese companies expect from international students. There are 5 skills or things that Japanese companies expect from you. The first is Japanese skill. The second is language skills other than Japanese. And the third is technical skills. The fourth is that you can sympathize with the working environment and corporate philosophy and feel comfortable with it. The fifth is be willing to work for long term at the same company. The first one, Japanese language skill, is very important to get a job in Japan. Please look at the table that's showing the level of Japanese proficiency that companies require when they give offer letters to you. According to the survey from DISCO, you have almost no job opportunities if you do not have any Japanese skills. It is obvious that the most of Japanese companies generally, like regardless of your student's major, are looking for someone who have at least business level of Japanese skills. You may take classes in English right now and have lived comfortably in Japan, even if you do not understand Japanese now. It is because you are a student and you are protected. Once you start get a job and make money as an employee in the society, the situation will completely change. Working in Japan means that the majority of your colleagues, customers, and like your team members are Japanese. So the first language is Japanese. So Japanese skills are very important. In other words, if you acquire N1 or N2, you can expand your possibilities of getting job in Japan all at once. So if you're serious about getting a job in Japan, I strongly recommend you to study Japanese. Second is multilingual. The reason is simple. As a company expands the business globally, there are many opportunities to work with people of different backgrounds. So you can communicate with them more smoothly if you can speak the local language and understand their local culture. The third is technical skills like engineering or accounting. It goes without saying that the types of talents who company want to hire are different from company to company. But if you acquire technical skills other than language, you will have huge advantage in job hunting. Let's take HORIBA as an example. So she is in charge of designing and developing HORIBA's medical products as an electrical engineer. She was hired because she had engineering skills and educational background in electrical engineering, although her Japanese level was at the conversation level when she got a job offer from us. Now she has improved enough to speak Japanese at the business level, by the way. But most of Japanese companies require almost N2 level of Japanese, as I showed the survey from DISCO. However, some of the companies like HORIBA, us, like hire international employees who do not have Japanese skills, but we more focus on technical skills like engineering and other skills like CAD, programming, C language, electrical circuit, and so on. The fourth is whether to fit the company. Understanding Japanese business culture, such as breathing air, kuki o yomu, or honne to tatemae, will make it easier for you to get along with your managers, colleagues, and customers. And having good relationship with others definitely make your performance better, which leads better team performance as well. Understanding not only Japanese business culture, but also the company's philosophy or working culture and trying to make yourself fit are also important. We welcome your new ideas and the way of perspective, but please do not just impose your own benefits too much. We would like you to understand and respect our culture as well. The fifth is willing to work for the company in the long term. As I explained in the beginning, the typical Japanese companies are hiring new graduates with general management position, 総合職採用, as we expect your potential. Japanese companies traditionally have introduced lifetime employment system to protect employment of the people as a social responsibilities. So they have tried to provide good education training with new employees around and nurture them to be a good talent in the future. This remains in most of Japanese companies till now. Even if you do not your job yet or do not have any experience at your job responsibilities, you will receive a certain salary once you start to work at the company. So it is said that the company has been investing you for at least about 3 years after joining the company. In other words, that the company pay for your educational fee for free about 3 years, right? It will hurt the company's budget if you just leave the company at the early stage and before you fully return your job performance or achievement to the company. Some people may think that after taking the free prepared trainings, then they just leave the company for the career step. But your manager or team members may notice your intention from your attitude or facial experience, which cause to reduce the trainer's motivation of providing good training with you. And they probably avoid giving you responsible jobs or good trainings once they realize that you're leaving soon. But yeah, what I want to say here is Japanese companies generally hire new graduates with high expectations for your future performance. They want you to stay at the same company for long term to expect you to be a future leader of the company. Most of the companies prefer hiring and nurturing new college graduates to hiring the talents who already had enough career experience from other companies. So please keep it in mind that what companies expect from you and what you can prepare for successful job hunting in Japan. Additionally, we HORIBA, we expect you to synthesize our corporate motto, joy and fun, and our 5 different business segments, and also have challenge spirit of taking job responsibilities on global stage. Okay, next, I would like to give you some ideas of how to find a company and the points that companies check during the job interviews. There are 3 main points to find a good company. First, understanding the company's business. You should think that what you're interested in and how you would like to contribute to the society. Second, understand the type of job. Although you will be hired in general management position, you should think about the type of job that you are interested in and whether the company has a role that you like to try. I recommend you to check, for example, whether your native language can be utilized, which means that whether the company expanding their business globally, or whether your technical skills can be utilized, which means that whether the skills are demonstrated in the company or not. The third point is understanding the corporate culture and working environment. Check the culture and values of the company and make sure that whether the atmosphere of the company matches your values, whether the company understands your religious restrictions, and whether they're international employees or not, and so on. Let me give you some example. So he is an employee in charge of overseas sales, and he has business level of Japanese skills and good communication skills, and he's interested in our business, our process, and the environment in HORIBA. Since he is Muslim, we provided a player's room and also supported halal food for him. We also had a seminar about understanding Muslim culture to the HORIBA employees when we welcomed him. So thanks to him, HORIBA can also have good opportunities to understand and respect their culture, which promotes the diversity in company. So I recommend you to see if the company understands your culture and religious restrictions and respect your culture or not. Regarding the checkpoints at the interview, it is highly possible that the hiring manager will asking you the following 2 points. I recommend you summarize your opinion so that you can explain them in your words. First, show your interest in the business outline and occupation. You should explain logically and clearly why you sympathize the business and why you are interested in the occupation. Second, make your ideas clear of what you want to do in the company and what values you can provide with the company. If you can tell them based on your personal experience or educational background, you can convince the interviewers more. I will give additional tip. Since it is Sogo Shoku, like general management position, you should say that you want to have various experience flexibly rather than just sticking to one specific position. But you should make it simultaneously, you should make it clear that what you want to do in the company as well. Why the interviewers check these points that I just talked is because companies are pursuing profits and they are responsible for returning profits to stakeholders. In the process of hiring managers need to evaluate whether you can contribute to their benefit or not. So I suggest you to be fully prepared to respond all questions from interviewers. Finally, I would like to introduce HORIBA's new graduate recruitment system and conclude. Like most Japanese companies, HORIBA hires new graduates in general management position. We see your potential skills through the interview process, and we see your personal experience and educational background in university. In general management position, you have possibilities of relocating to other branches, including overseas. They apply not only to HORIBA, but also most of Japanese manufacturing companies as well. We divide 2 groups of recruitment process. So you should select one of them when you apply for the position. The first one is Gijutsuke, like engineering. You may be expected the following the job titles like R&D, designing development, and software development, and so on. The majority of students who apply for Gijutsuke technology position major in STEM, like science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Second, Jimu Eigyoke, administration, sales itself, and so on. You may be expected the following job titles like overseas sales, purchasing, logistics, business planning, and so on. A majority of students who apply for Jimu Eigyoke administration sales positions major in accounting, finance, management, and legal studies, economics, and so on. So there are some cases that whether the new graduate assignments are decided ahead of time. For example, if you have completed the doctoral program, then you may be able to continue to your work in your academic field at the company too. In conclusion, due to a problem of labor shortage and declining birth rate in Japan, international students like you have more opportunity to get a job in Japan than before. However, if you want to have highly responsible jobs at the global level, it is very hard indeed to get the post because it is competitive. That is why you need to be properly prepared to work in Japan to get a good job where you can maximize your skills, growth, and perform globally to make your life joy and fun. Okay, good luck on your job hunting, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. ありがとうございます。Thank you very much for great speech, Austin-san, Kishigami-san. Let's move to the breakout session till 10 past 9. The expert will stay in your room for each maybe about 10 minutes. So let's move on.
just in time, I just finished my last question, and I hope that everybody is back. And you've I'm sure that this is a short time, we can't really answer everything, but I hope that at least from some of the responses that we've given to some questions, they would have given you some insight and some advice for you to think about. Okay, we do have a few people who are still waiting to come back in. Okay. So right now I will be looking at a few some of the comments that we've had, and I think that are important to share with the overall group. And so the first thing is that I received a question about, does job hunting change for PhD students? And this is an important thing because some of you here are PhD, some of you here are master's students who are considering whether to go into PhD in terms of whether that affects your job hunting prospects. Now, my own opinion is that for PhDs, generally speaking, the Shukatsu rule book, the timing whatsoever is much more, it isn't so rigid. That can be a good thing or a bad thing, because some companies will still hire PhD candidates based on the typical Shukatsu schedule. One other option that comes out is finding a job through recommendation of your professor. That's also very common. Another possibility is applying as a mid-career. So there's far less rules here. There's far less rules. That can be a bad thing because you don't know what to do. So yeah, when you're looking for a PhD, right, you actually just have to try everything, because nobody's there that's going to shoot the pistol. It's not the Olympics and tell you to run at the same time. So you really have to try everything here, is what I would say. But I think Kishigami-san, you may want to respond about this, because you're in the position of a company HR.
Sure. So in our case, and we actually hire PhD students anytime. So even though you're not graduating now, or you're already graduated, you already acquired your PhD, you can apply anytime for the PhD students. But masters and also undergraduate, we have specific time that you can submit your application form, entry sheet. We basically accept in February, the end of February to the beginning of March. But for the PhD, you're welcome anytime.
As you can see, PhD sometimes become halfway between a mid-career job search and fresh graduate job search. But yeah, there's a bit of complexity. That can be good or that can be bad, depending on how you play it. One question that I received was about internships, about how to find long-term internships. My answer to that, and I wish you people came last week, but the answer to that is that you have to find them yourselves. There's LinkedIn, there's Wantedly, which are possible platforms for you to find internships. One simple way is to go around looking for small and medium companies or startups and just send them their resume and saying that, can I work for you for 2 days a week? I can commit the time and this is what I can give you. Many times they need people and they will be happy to accept you, even though they don't write it on the website. Otherwise, look for people, message people on LinkedIn, and stuff like that. I know people who are actually doing long-term internships at JICA, for example. I do not know how they got it, but they got it. So the thing is, it's up to you to handle that. Yeah. Kishigami-san, do you have any a question that you want and an answer that you want to share with the whole group?
So some of the students, they asked me its age matters for the getting job, and I answered that so for us HORIBA, we do not have age limitations, age requirements, but if you are younger, then you have more time to work in the same company. Yeah, that's why Japanese company want to hire people for young age, but you still have chances to apply.
It's a very interesting question, and I did kind of answer it in one of my rooms as well. But for the people who want to hear my opinion about this is homework for you. Please read. This is homework. Yes. Yeah. I received a question about job hunting in smaller cities. Is it can you never get a job in a small city? Must you always go to the big cities? Are there more choices? And many of you here are actually studying in places which are not in the big cities. So this is a bit of advice. There are more choices in big cities, it is true. but companies also have more choices to pick from in terms of applicants. So the thing is that big cities, if you want to apply to like for example like the top like the most famous companies, and you would probably have to go to like the big cities, but smaller cities have a big advantage in terms of having less competition. And because of this, it's often said that it is easier to find a job in a smaller city than in a big city. However, this comes with the assumption that your Japanese is probably at least an N3. Because business, once you go out of the big city of Japan, it becomes even more Japanese language based. So yeah, that's one thing that I just want to say. Kishigami-san, do you have anything to add about this?
And also, if you want to live in the big cities, and then cost, you have to prepare for the cost as well, like cost of living, and also other, like maybe if you buy something like supermarket, the cost is very expensive rather than like rural place. So if you look for a job in Japan, if you want to get a job in Japan, maybe you should see like local areas as well, not only in Tokyo or not only in Osaka, and you have probably more opportunities to get a job.
I don't think the Daigaku Consortium is happy for us to say this, but yeah, that is the reality of it. But that's one thing. But yeah, so that's pretty much some things I at least those are the things I wanted to say. But like Kishigami-san, do you have any important points that you also want to raise? Other important points?
Not now, I think.
Not now. In that case, we have 7 minutes until closing. So anybody wants to ask us a question, both right now. We're open. This is your chance. Hi.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask in the last session, but wasn't able to at the end.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask to Austin-san. In your presentation, you mentioned about recruiters being a good avenue to job hunt. I wanted to just hear about where you can get in touch with people like that, because I haven't seen anything like that. Thank you.
Okay. Good question. And I have more homework for you. This is why I have my blog. My blog is very useful because the thing is that I can give more full answers instead of the link is there. The link is there in the chat. But to give a verbal answer, basically these are companies which will take your profile and introduce you to other companies. They get a fee from it. In all honesty, they get a fee from it. In all honesty, not from you. If somebody asks you to pay money for a recruitment service, that is illegal in Japan.
I see.
They get the money from the company. Okay, so but yeah, these are places which are skilled in advising foreign students, brushing up your resume, giving you your interview skills and whatsoever, and also kind of directing you to companies where they think that you can actually enter.
See.
There are many of them. The quality varies, but just shop around. Do not rely on one. But yeah, send your resume to multiple places, and that really can help you and saves you a lot of time. Okay.
Thank you very much.
One more question, 2 more questions around there. Yeah. People, you won't get many opportunities,
Well,
Yes.
now that you say it.
Yes. Okay. Let's start with Kunu first. Yes, and then after yeah.
In your presentation, I think you mentioned apply directly to the company, but how do you actually find the company?
Okay. When I say apply directly, what I mean is, you pretty much are looking for a job as a mid-career. What happens here? So for example, most companies, and I'm sure HORIBA as well, you have a recruitment page on your website where you have all your job open job roles and stuff like that. And so basically it's just looking at that and applying. Of course, if you can look at other job boards LinkedIn, then there's Career Cross. There's DAY2 and many of them. It therefore depends on you to look through as many of them as possible, look for the things which are relevant to yourself, and then directly applying to them. Maybe through the official website. People who want to join HORIBA, please take a look at the link that Kishigami-san has put in down there. But yeah, look at your website, look at the websites, apply for places, and yeah, just try to skip, like, you can try to skip the general job hunting like process for this. I have to say this though, this is mainly for people with more than 3 years of experience, working experience overseas, or PhDs. It's not so common to do that when you're a bachelor's or a master's.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, Afia, you want to ask something?
Yes, thank you. So how much influence does your supervisor or your professors have in your application process, or like in terms of getting you connections, for want of a better word?
Interesting question. Kishigami-san, do you have anything do you have any response to that regarding like how important the supervisor or your professor is in terms of like recruitment and stuff?
We don't really contact with the like supervisors or like school, like teachers. So if you can get the advice from them, I think it's good to look for a job. But the connection of the, how can I say, professors are not that important, I guess. It depends. It depends on like what professors you have connection or not.
I guess I should ask a follow-up question to Kishigami-san. So does HORIBA right now actually do, for example, kenkyushitsayo, like, like approaching former graduates and stuff like that, like the laboratories of former graduates to actually hire from them?
Not really, but if you have a strong connection with the kenkyushitsu, then probably like one case an year or something like that. We don't have that much like
I see.
cases.
So my take on your question, Afia, is that it does depend on whether you are actually going through what I mentioned just now, what I just mentioned, kenkyushitsayo. Whether, for example, a company has approached your laboratory to ask your professor whether he or she can recommend a current student for the recruitment. If that is what happens, then after that, it can be whether the professor will recommend you, it's pretty much dependent on what his or her opinion of you. So yeah, that's one thing that's important. For general recruitment, not really. As Kishigami-san mentioned, like, the recruiters don't really contact their professors to ask their opinion of you. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. But PhDs, if you're looking to job hunt based on the connections of your professors or the connections of your laboratory or your like or your kenkyushitsu, stuff like that, right? Then yes, it will be important. It depends on how you job hunt. Yeah, I think that we got one last question, like, in the chat, like, is HORIBA internship open for PhDs too? Like, Kishigami-san, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, we are open to PhD students as well, but it depends on the timing, and also it depends on the like what background you have. So you can apply, you can email us, then we will see if we have any position for you.
Okay. So I guess that's all the time that we have for this session. So maybe I want to give the time back to Suga-san from Consortium.
Thank you. So wait for a minute. So now I'd like to announce the next event, everyone. Thank you for coming today. So we'll also take photo of the event, and we provide some questionnaire to do some additional question you can write into in the questionnaire, sorry. So if you have time, please remind to the end. First, from 8 p.m. on 30th of December, we'll hold a dialogue event, working without purposes over the definition of plus alpha created from work. So this time we'll invite representative from JICA Egypt office and Osaka Real Estate to talk on working style, way of thinking, and the way of life, not only focusing on the assigned task, but also finding your own individual way of living and work purpose from the concept of plus alpha. It means plus something special. So this will be heated brainstorming session for 90 minutes. So there will be discussion and Q&A session, so please join us. And second, another event So on January, it's quite far away from now, but January 17th at 8 p.m., take action for the SDGs on the day with the number 70, leave no one behind. So this is the SDGs event. The theme of this event is reduced inequality. So our special guest will be Mr. Kurokawa, who runs Ryoshinjuku, a place to support education, employment, and housing for young people with prison experience. So in Japan, there are many young people who have experienced abuse or family collapse and inevitably get involved in crime. And other speaker, Tanishika-san, a student of International School of Kansai Gakuin, will talk about microaggression. And Rachel-san, a global business developer and a social entrepreneur, will talk about the power of education to fight inequality. So please register for this event as well. And finally, we'll take a photo for SNS screenshot. So if you don't like being in photo, please turn off your video. And we would like you to answer this short questionnaire. So you can access this QR code to answer. So we also send this URL to chat. So were you able to access the questionnaire, everyone? So if you have additional questions to Austin-san, Kishigami-san, please write them in Q9 of the questionnaire. So we'll send it to the speakers and get back to you later. So, okay, thank you very much. So we're gonna take photos. So if you are okay, please turn on your video, please, everyone. Thank you. じゃあ撮りますね。So please give us a big smile. Say cheese. Thank you. Right. Thank you very much for coming today. So this is the end of the event. I hope see you soon. ありがとうございます。
Thank you, everyone.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。